We are live, folks, for a wonderful recording of the Remodelers on the Rise show. You're probably maybe watching this on YouTube if you're there. We're waving to you because you can see us. If you're listening to this on the podcast recording, thank you so much for tuning in. You may want to take some notes. Now, if you're driving or you're working out while listening to this, be careful. But if you're sitting at your desk, maybe get your notes out because we're going to be covering some things that I think it'll be very applicable and things that you need to work on and implement into your remodeling business. I have a wonderful remodeler based out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I asked him if he has a title, and what did you tell me, Jeff?
I said head coach.
Head coach. Head coach. I like that. It's Jef Forward with Forward Design Build Remodel. Jeff's got a wonderful remodeling company. He's got 38 employees. He has, over the years, you're just a bit of a, I've gathered from getting to know you, a bit of a
Uh-oh.
business of, yeah, how do I want to word it? I was going with business aficionado, a student of business, somebody that gets kind of fired up, yes, on the remodeling side and the beautiful work that you guys get to produce, but even more than that, building a team, building a culture, figuring out how this whole managing of people works. How do we continue to stay fired up about our business when maybe, we've achieved some of those early goals? We've got to keep challenging ourselves and improving things. So a bit of a student of business. So you were hesitant there of which way is he going here, but that was all
Right.
compliments, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Thank you very
Okay.
much. I appreciate that. That's evident.
Excellent. So Jeff is on the Remodelers community, the private Facebook group. If you're not a part of that, go to remodelerscommunity.com. And it was a few months ago. There was some back and forth on a variety of topics, and we started talking about some different software, implementing different software into your remodeling business. How do we approach this? What are some of our options? And Jeff had written some replies that were helpful, and we thought, you know what, this would be good to expand on this a little bit. So where we're going today is one, Jeff, I'd like to kind of start by talking about your history of using software and implementing software into your business, and maybe a little bit of kind of a state of the software options out there in our industry. We're going to talk about three types of software, and we're going to talk about some of the things that you've implemented. So why don't we roll back to that first part of, tell us about kind of your history of how you've attacked and approached implementing software into your remodeling business.
Well, from the very beginning, I would say that I have an early adopter mentality.
Hmm.
There is a software that I started to use in 2006, which shall go unnamed because it didn't last more than a year.
Okay.
But I was all in on the potential for it. And a lot of people would also call that a shiny object syndrome. And so, but I was hooked at that point, and it took a little while longer for some other products that come out that really caught my attention. And of course, that was BuilderTrend, and then there was Co-Construct and Build Tools. And I initially used, kind of went back and forth a year at a time between BuilderTrend and Build Tools. And then around 2010, I found Smartsheet, and I kept building slowly and slowly with it, and I've never really looked back. But
Hmm.
I will say the landscape of software from 2010 to 2023 is vastly different.
Hmm.
So, but I have the same approach with this early adopter mentality, and that I really enjoy learning about things that can help us bring more value to our clients' experience and our productivity during
Ooh.
work.
Ooh, let's just sit in those two things for a minute. Well, a couple things already that I'm observing. Number one, early adopter. That's just kind of in your nature. But as the remodelers are listening to this, the software world for remodelers is ever changing, very fast changing. We've got JobTread that's kind of new on the scene over the last couple of years. You mentioned them when we were talking before. You got the BuilderTrends and Co-Constructs. You got Smartsheets. There's a lot of build tools. There's a lot of different ones out there. What I have seen over the last couple years is a big step forward in general of remodelers saying, enough. We have got to implement. We have got to, Jeff.
Well, I'm
Jeff.
very sorry about that.
Oh, I know it's probably going through your computer or whatnot. But I'm one of
Yeah.
those. I'm one of those teachers that if a phone goes off in class, they have to answer it live and put it on speakerphone.
Yeah.
Would that have been somebody fun that we would have talked to?
No, she would not have enjoyed that.
Was that your beloved wife?
No, it was
Okay.
Sean, our marketing director.
That would have been exciting. If it was Monica, I would have said hello. But just ever changing landscape. And I just want to encourage before we even go any further, if you're running a remodeling business in 2023, you have got to continue to implement technology. You've got to do it for the second thing that Jeff mentioned, which is we've got to be more efficient. We've got to be productive. We've got to run our business smoothly and well. But I wanted to really emphasize that first part. You led with I'm very focused on making sure that we are implementing things that help enhance our clients' experience with us. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit more about that. This has been something. It's interesting that you mentioned that. And I jumped on it because somebody challenged me a couple of months ago, a colleague of mine, and he said, "Well, how's your clients' experience? How are you taking them from where they're at to where they're going? Have you really designed that? Have you thought about that?" And while I've given it some thought, I would say that I'm a little bit more thoughtful on my own business productivity, my own efficiency versus really focusing on the client experience. It's a good challenge for me to sink my teeth into. So tell me more about that. Is that a big focus of yours when you think of software?
Yes, it is. So the idea of that there's a single source of truth, and that primarily has been our biggest focus is providing our team, and I believe happy team makes a happy client,
Hmm.
and providing a system where uh, we limit kind of the world of where they have to go find information, and there's either the build notes, there's the client schedule, and then the selection sheet. And those three things are our single source of truth.
Hmm.
And so it was all about how can we have this happen systematically and easily. And so for our team, for our project managers, always have the information at hand and be able to, and this is where the client's experience comes in, setting the expectations. That's the key thing for us. What we found with our clients, if we can continually set their expectations and meet their expectations,
Hmm.
they're very happy.
Hmm. And go through those three things, the three items of absolute truth.
Our build notes,
Build notes.
the construction schedule.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let me refresh. The construction schedule, which is the big picture view.
Yep.
The build notes, which is where we document all of our client meeting notes and any miscellaneous tasks that come up because it is remodeling and that happens. And then our selection sheet, and that
Hmm.
has um, all of the spec documents with it, and it also has the status of if it's ordered, if it's been received, if it's been delivered to the job site.
Hmm. So that's of note. I'm going to have you dig in a little bit more on the build notes here coming up. But I liked what you said there of we've noticed that our clients are happy if we can set expectations and then we can meet those expectations. And I see directly how you're tying those three things into that goal. If we have our big picture schedule, we can set expectations with our team members, with our trade partners, with our clients.
Mhm.
If we're doing a good job of organizing our build notes, all of the miscellaneous meetings that happen, when our project manager talks to the client and a decision is made or an update is made, are we going in and updating that so everybody on the team is aware of it? Do we have the
Correct.
discipline and the simple, clear process and system to make that happen? And then the selection sheet that has so much information as we go.
Right.
Good. So even those three things, if I'm a remodeler listening to this, how messy is your schedule? How messy or organized are your build notes? What about your selection sheet? By having those three main things in place, it really reduces a lot of that noise. What about this? What about that? Oh, I forgot about this. Oh, I did they mention that? We've got to really be organized. That enables us to have a great client experience. Okay, cool, cool. All right, so that sets a little bit of the groundwork. You had kind of shared in your post that you kind of view it as there's three types of approaches when it comes to software. Jeff, what are those three approaches that you've seen?
The canned out of the box approach. number one. Number two is custom software. And then number three is a best in craft approach,
Hmm.
or a no code software that's really not designed for any industry, but can be applied to any industry.
So tell us a little more about each of them. So canned out of the box, kind of share a little bit of that or some examples of that.
So those are designed specifically for the industry, and those include BuilderTrend, Procore, uh, Co-Construct, although we know where Co-Construct is going, um, JobTread, Build Exact, Build Tools, which is now CCI. So they're all designed around the industry, and they're designed with a kind of a core user group in mind,
Hmm.
and they develop best practices for how that group thinks it should be. And initially, way back in 2010, I was really thrilled about it, but I found that I had to conform my way of thinking to their way of thinking.
Hmm.
And for me at the time, that was difficult for me to do, and ultimately that's not why it worked. But what I will say is the contributions that these software platforms have provided to our industry for raising professionalism and really showing people how things can be accomplished with software and the value it can bring a client has really gone through the roof, in my opinion. And
Hmm.
so while I never really liked BuilderTrend, I've come to really respect BuilderTrend now for what they've done for the industry, and how some people are really able to leverage that, because it's such a wide platform with so many different channels you can go into, and they weren't very deep initially, but now I think they're pretty deep. And you see some power users out there, and there's power user groups that you can join,
Yeah.
and I think a lot more people are starting to get on board with
Gotcha. So I think
that.
that's interesting. Of they're designed for our industry, probably some good value as far as what you invest in it,
Mhm.
and having that concept of a lot of this I kind of need to change our process around this versus maybe we've got a process that's working. Let's create something that works with that. So that's a distinction that I don't think a lot of people think about when they think of software. And then the second one, you said custom software, kind of software that's written specifically for you and your company. That kind of sounds expensive, Jeff.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But before I do that, I forgot to mention
Yep.
another one, which is a newcomer, which is really up and coming, is JobTread.
Yeah.
And just how that is written on a different type of database structure where it's more of an open system. It's going to be really interesting to watch what that software does in terms of API connections across other software approaches. So,
Hmm.
um, so with that, the custom
They
software.
might send you a job tread hat with just mentioning them in that uplifting, hopeful way, Jeff.
Well, you know what, I've done one of their walkthroughs where they showed me everything. It was pretty impressive, and yeah, I'd take a hat.
There you go.
So the custom software approach, that is, I've seen this with companies that have a really focused growth path where they know they want to get into 10 million, 15 million, 20 or above in
Hmm.
terms of remodeling. And a lot of custom or production home builders also develop custom software, but it's written specifically for you. It's initially very expensive, and then you have an ongoing kind of updating process. And I've seen companies spend up to 100 grand a year or more
Hmm.
just on software.
Okay. So those are two of the types of approaches to software: canned out of the box, custom software, and then the third one you're referring to is as no code software. Kind
Right.
of okay, we're it's good at doing this, but we kind of have to shape it for the remodeling business. Tell us a little more about that.
Correct. So I call that the no code, or the best in craft. And the idea is that you can build a system for yourself as you go. And it's a matter of understanding the software and the tools that it gives you to manage your information, and then moving ahead kind of one step at a time. Over the years, when people were considering the first approach, the out of the box software, they weren't really comfortable seeing all these different channels that they could go into, and that maybe they only needed construction scheduling.
Hmm.
And so this approach with the best in craft software, I should probably give this just one name. So I'm gonna call it no code
Okay.
software.
It's
Um,
official, folks. It's official. Lock it in.
so the no code software approach, you can really dial into exactly what you need at that particular time in your business life where you are scaling or trying to scale. And then as you're growing, either you're growing in your revenue or you're trying to grow just your bottom line. And each approach is fine, but the software can help you do that. So,
Hmm.
and that's where you can really narrow in on something specific that will you can adopt within your organization to improve the metric you're trying to improve.
Whether it be scheduling, whether it be task management, whether it be sales pipeline, whether it be estimating, kind of these a little bit more start with some siloed items and then kind of build from there. So you wrote a couple examples of Smartsheet, Trello, Notion, ClickUp, Asana, and you've kind of settled in over the last decade on Smartsheet. So
Yes.
kind of moving from the three types of software into a little bit of a vision or a little bit of a picture of how you've implemented that, and maybe just sharing with us, 3, 4, 5 different areas that you've kind of implemented and how you've approached implementing Smartsheet into your business. I think that'll be helpful for people to hear.
So the first thing was a kind of an overview status or a the ability to have a picture of every client that we're working with, from a potential prospect in the sales development, to our design clients, to our build clients, and then to our warranty clients.
Hmm.
So they have a system where it's a they have a base sheet, which is basically like an Excel sheet, but it's on steroids because you can attach PDFs, you can attach links, you can attach movies. So it's a great way to deliver SOPs. But then they have a reporting structure that can pass back and forth two-way information. But they have the concept of portfolio updating. So at any time, I could see the status of where our clients are at. So that was
Hmm.
the first thing that I found very helpful.
So what we're talking about there is any remodeler listening to this, you've got 20, you've got 25, you've got 15, you've got 45 projects in various states. And what you're saying there is we designed an overview status, kind of using the structure and the approach we have right now. Maybe you used to do it on a whiteboard. Maybe you had it in an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you had it very not very organized, but you could pull it up and say, boom, I've got 5 people we're at the phone call stage. We've got 4 people at the initial meeting. We've got these 6 people that have signed a design and development agreement, and just all the way through using the various views or steps in your process. So you're just able to see this all at once, be able to click in it to see more details, all of that.
Correct.
And
Yes.
you as a business owner, what does that do for you, or even as the team? What does it enable you to do?
So as a business owner, as we're growing the company, it helps me be able to predict where we might have holes or slowdowns and where we need to react.
Hmm.
That was the biggest thing. And for my team, it really helped the team understand the bigger picture of kind of who is coming next. The and gives them comfort that it's a transparent approach of letting people see the business we have, and letting them feel secure in their role.
Hmm.
Now, the downside of that is if you happen to get slow and people are seeing that, it also gives them the opportunity to say to themselves, huh, maybe I need to start looking.
Yeah.
But with constant communication about that, I feel it's a strength.
Got it. And seeing where potential bottlenecks are, and seeing where, why has this person been sitting in this status for so long? What's the next step to get them over here? I think a lot of times that is pretty vague and not very organized for modelers. And time kills deals. The longer things are sitting, the likelihood of that continuing to move forward kind of goes down. And we need to make sure we reduce cycle time, the amount of time from design agreement signed to our initial design presented to them,
Right.
or further down the estimate done. So that overview status was the first thing you implemented. So then what? And then you got that in place. Then what was the next thing you kind of tackled?
Our production calendars,
Hmm.
the Gantt chart schedules, and from there, having 5 calendars in a row, we could start to do reports. And what I was saying about the reporting feature back and forth is we can do conflicts between certain subcontractors.
Ooh.
So we can start to see, okay, we need to build our bench. We need one more tile contractor or 3 more tile contractors. And we're also able to then also produce cash flow reports. Very easily be able to put our progress payments associated with the start of a particular milestone. I can build a report from that. I did this a long time ago, and so we can predict on a monthly basis our revenue, and we do so with our team with a forecasting approach, and we're able to match and see if we're able to keep our schedules to hit our forecasts.
Hmm. And so there's a lot there, and the thing that comes to my mind is I think sometimes when you hear something like that, okay, we create our production schedules. I don't care calendars. I don't care what kind of remodeler you are. If you're not taking the time and the hours to organize your production schedule, it's costing you money. It's just
Right.
flat out costing you money. So as you were describing that, and I'm like, okay, then you have progress payments in there. I heard a couple things. One, we build a report around there. Getting this data and getting this information is fairly quick, but setting up the schedule, making adjustments to it as we go, that does take time. And I would say, and you can either back me up or say, well, Kyle, I kind of agree. But every hour we spend reviewing that, organizing that, adjusting that is saving us hours as we go through the project and hundreds of dollars. Time is well spent there, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we got the overview status, we got the production calendars. People are already kind of jealous of what you have set up over there because they want it as well. Which I'm going to interject here. In the show notes, we're going to have a link. Jeff's doing a little YouTube channel that's going to have some examples of this stuff and more. It's a little side project you have going on. So we'll
Yes.
have we'll have that linked in the show notes. Cool.
Great.
So
Yeah.
then what'd you move on to after the production calendars?
After the production calendars, we really focused on an estimating system. Uh,
Estimating's so hard, Jeff.
yes, it is, but it's so important. And with this idea of the best in craft, so I spent a couple years with a system called clearestimates.com. I love clearestimates.com. If anyone ever is looking at an estimating system, like that's my number one recommendation, even though we don't use it anymore
Hmm.
because we built out our custom system within Smartsheet. But Clear Estimates was a fantastic place for us to start because it estimates and writes your scope of work at the same time. And but however, there was a few limitations with how we deal with trade partners within that system. So we brought it over to Smartsheet, and by using a formula writing system, bear with me, it's called concatenate formula writing.
Whew.
Um, it's where uh, you're writing a formula that is we basically written it once, and as we estimate, it pushes out a sentence that's a readable, grammatically correct
Wow.
sentence. And so our summary or our scope of work is totally based on our estimate, and we can also check some boxes that have some clarification notes and language in it. So
So
but
you're estimating software, your estimating approach that you've taken as you are going through, and I always start with demo. You're
right.
checking off the different types of demo, um, the areas of the home and whatnot. As you're creating the estimate, you've got it set up where the majority or all of the scope of work is also being created as you go. Kind of a little two for one.
Correct.
So give
And
give us an example of that. Like how does that work?
um, so when we get to that point where we're doing our final estimate, and let's say plumbing fixtures, and we're marking off two like primary bath faucets and there's a price in there, and that happens to be a material allowance. So we'll have a sentence that automatically pushes out with a room title, provide, and then it has the quantity of, and then there's a description of the item, and then the cost, and it's
Hmm.
plumbing allowance.
Got it.
So, and that all also totals up into the category. So people are able to see what we're planning on, but also as we go through our process, we're finalizing those decisions before we start construction. But people are able to just always know where that pricing is at.
Hmm. I've been playing around with my business name a little bit more lately. This Remodelers on the Rise, Remodelers on the
Mhm.
Rise, and I've been thinking a lot, going back to earlier of, what does it look like to be really improving the business and the client experience. I've been thinking about my client experience, and it is very rare that I see a remodeler on the rise, meaning you are improving financially, work-life balance wise, productivity, team managing your team. You're rising in all these different key areas of your business. It's very rare that I find a company that is rising and improving, where they have not spent a significant amount of time and energy on estimating. I'm learning. I mean, I've been coaching for 15 years, and I'd say over the last few years, I'm having more realization that estimating is one of the most important aspects of your entire business. Making sure that that's such a critical place, that the production team is equipped with the scope of work and with proper hours and details, where you're either making money or losing money based on how detailed you are. There's so
Mhm.
much that goes into it. So what you're talking about there is, we've spent a significant amount of time building out this estimating system. It does not happen overnight, and it
Right.
is important.
Right. Yes. And I would also add that estimating and job cost reporting
Hmm.
is the key element. And over time, we've grown the estimating system to involve a transparency to modify it as we need for a client. I mean, it's already modified into the templates, but this was something we started a year and a half ago, and now we can produce several different reports depending on layers of information we want to show. It also includes a change order system
Hmm.
that pushes the change order into the original scope of work, where our scopes are always digitally referenced on iPads. And then it's also a time tracking system that produces labor actual to estimate
Ooh,
hour.
ooh. Gets me
And
excited when I hear job costing like that.
this this was a huge game changer for us, and it really helps keep everyone on track of where the hours are, and if we're ahead or behind on a job, and how can we make it up.
You mentioned change orders. You agree, as a successful remodeler, we should save all those change. Let's just save all those change orders for the end of the project, then we'll settle up, right?
Yeah,
No?
sure.
Oh,
That always never works.
folks, listen. If you're listening to this, here's what we do: we identify a change order, we write it up, we price it, we have them sign off on it, and they pay for it. I will concede that they might pay for it at the next progress payment versus right there, but that's how you do change orders. Do not kick it down the road. Do not wait till later. It's just a recipe for really screwing up your client experience and you eating money that you shouldn't eat. So I'll go on that little tangent, and then I want you to share a couple more things that of what you've implemented. It's helpful, I think, for people to see where you've gone with it. But I did want to interject this before you might talk about task management and
Mhm.
another item. Who do you have on your team that's really helping you implement this? Is there a couple other software folks in your company that just like to nerd out on this?
No, it's me.
Okay,
That's been the challenge.
you're the
So
you're the head coach and chief software engineer.
right, yes. So the one of the things that in growing a business and replacing myself over time is I got to make decisions of what I really wanted to do, and so I get to work on some high level architectural design with a few of our designers, and I get to
Hmm.
work on systems. I really love systems and making it easier for people to be productive, and so I really do enjoy this.
I like that. So, and then a couple other things that you started tackling, software related. The next one that you had mentioned to me was task management.
Correct. Task management. So the idea of this single source of truth is that having an overall process sheet. So we have a dedicated process sheet that lists every activity that needs to happen. And the key is not getting too detailed, but having enough detail. And
Hmm.
we've gone through a couple of variations over the years. However, but it's been the same master process sheet that we developed. And I know you can do this within BuilderTrend, or I'm pretty sure within JobTread as well. But it's just the idea that you have one single source. Every project goes through the same process, and some people might not agree with that, but that's how we
Hmm.
roll. And from there, it really helps to produce um, a report. So one of our team members can open up their report and they see a list of every job, the things that they have upcoming to do, and they can check it off right on that list.
So, for example, a dedicated process sheet, we get to the part of the project where we're in pre-construction or we're getting close to maybe the first day, and there's going to be something on there about putting a job site sign up. There's going to be talking about the prep work we do, before we arrive, the just all those little steps that are pretty uniform. And if there's something on that master process list that's not applicable for a project, then we can just check that off. But really, you've thought through all the different hundreds of steps that are involved in all those little
Right.
things and have it so that it gets applied to specific people so they have their little task list.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, got it. And then the last one you'd mentioned was a purchasing system.
So this was something that it's evolved from our selection system. And when COVID started to hit, or I'm sorry, after COVID hit and all the supply chain issues came up, we realized we needed to document our purchasing system in a better way, so we can track what has been delivered incorrectly, what has been delivered damaged, what is suddenly on back order
Hmm,
or out of production. And so, just with a couple of tweaks to our system, our selection system, we were able to produce a purchasing dashboard, a purchasing approach that I can log on to, or within Smartsheet, I can look at our purchasing dashboard and I can see a status of every project in terms of their ordering status. And it's just a whole system that sets up alerts and pushes out information to the team. But uh, the fact that we're able to do this within our the system that we already have designed was just a reaffirmation that we're in the right approach
hmm,
for us, versus like there's some other systems out there that will do stuff like this, but it's just a separate system for selections and purchasing, like Folio, for example. That's
gotcha.
a great software, but we want to keep everything currently in our own ecosystem.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I like that single source of truth. You mentioned earlier. I was wanting you to expand on a little bit. The build notes. Okay, selection sheet. That's pretty self-explanatory. The production calendar. Ever changing but pretty standard. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the build notes? How's that organized? Like if I logged into your system, how's that organized? Is there sections for meeting notes or what's coming up, or how do you do that?
So it's just it's a tally. So you can just imagine a spreadsheet, and every note, has a date, has a title, and then a description, and then a status. Is it open? Is it closed? Is it in progress?
Hmm,
And then who it's assigned to. And from there, there's some side information about who the main project designer is, who the main project manager is, just for reference, and the actual stage of where they're at in our overall process. And it can be organized by meeting, just with a parent-child relationship, or it can just be a straight column.
gotcha.
And as things are marked off, that the the formula or the visuals change on it. It goes from a white with a black font with a white background to a light gray with a lighter gray
In other
background. So
words, done.
yeah, you can visually see what's open and what's not.
Gotcha.
And I also have a counter on that column, so I can see at any time how many open tasks are on a project, and my production manager can see that as well, and that's when they know, okay, we've got to jump
Gotcha.
on this. We're getting a little behind.
So Forward team members, Forward Design Build Remodel team members, they are updating their notes and they're in this system regularly.
This, yes.
Yeah.
Now, that is the constant management issue
Hmm.
of making sure that gets done, and that's talked about on a weekly basis.
Okay. I like that. Very, very good. Well, we're kind of nearing the round and third, heading for home here. I think the goal of today was to the second part here was to really give a vision of the main things that you've implemented, how you've implemented it, why they're important. We definitely achieved that. Hopefully, getting people rallied around this idea of we can't ignore technology, and if we've implemented, I see this often, Jeff, where people might implement a BuilderTrend or a JobTrend or this software, that software, and then, like a lot of things in life, we get kind of busy. We run out a little bit of steam. We run into a little bit of resistance where
Mhm.
I thought this was going to go smoothly. It's not really working smoothly, or my team members aren't really utilizing, or we fall back to old habits. And
Right.
oftentimes, I see companies that need to take a breath, step back, and say, all right, it's time to recommit to this. Where are we at? What's the next right thing for us to work on? It's a never ending thing. You're going to be
Right.
working on your software and your systems, your processes of your Molly business in 2028 and 30 and 32 and 34. That's
Right.
just it's a core part of what it looks like to continue to evolve and improve, and be a remodeler on the rise. I'm playing with
Right.
that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Excellent. So mission accomplished. What else? Anything else that's in your mind of that you'd want to emphasize for the remodelers listening to this? And then, if you have any more information about what you're up to on that YouTube channel that you're firing up.
Yes. So the biggest thing I hear from people when they're thinking about a system like just the canned out of the box approach, which is honestly the most cost effective in terms of dollars and in terms of time, is that it's too expensive. How my clients would never pay uh, that additional amount of money, and I kind of chuckle inside and say, honestly, they would in a heartbeat if they knew how cheap it was,
Hmm.
and it's just a mindset. So, for example, a $2 million company that might be doing 30 projects a year, like if you break that down, it could be a $500 fee or less per client, and they would pay that in a heartbeat to be able to know that it's helping you be more organized.
Hmm.
And that approach of being transparent with this is a part of our overhead cost, that's a very easy thing to sell, but you don't even have to take that approach if you don't want to.
Right.
And all you need to do is for the for next year when you're planning your budget, and I hope everyone is working with a budget, that put it in your budget for the next year, and you'll be amazed at how inexpensive it really is compared to the value that you're bringing your team
Good.
and your clients.
Too many of these people listening do not have a business budget, Jeff. Tisk
Okay.
tisk. Right? We need to create it, and it's not that complicated, folks. Pull up your QuickBooks, your software from last year. Start with all of your expenses, all of your overhead expenses. Is it going down? Is it staying the same? Is it going up? What are some of the goals you have for this upcoming year? Set a goal for your top line revenue. Set a goal for your percentage of cost of goods sold. You can calculate your pricing on that. You can calculate your markup, your margins based on that.
Hmm.
Dig into that. And also, I will even say, just because you brought it up, if somebody reaches out to me, or actually Bailey at remodelersontherise.com, and says, I was listening, and just as a throwaway comment at the very end, it wasn't even directly related to what we were talking about. Kyle mentioned there was a great lesson that he did on how to set up your business budget. Can you send that to me? We will send that to you free of charge, so that Jeff can rest easier knowing that there's more remodelers that actually have a business budget created. And to your point, your main point there before that was do not look at this software as a cost. This is an investment. It is a wise investment, and if you start to use a little bit of it, it will pay itself back very quickly.
Correct.
Good,
Yes.
excellent. And what's this YouTube? You're going to be a YouTuber? You're going to be one of those famous YouTubers?
Uh, no, I will
No.
never be probably a famous YouTuber, and that's perfectly fine. But I want to share information about how to use Smartsheet, and because it can sound complicated when I explain it, but it's actually a very simple system. And I'm going to be producing videos on our templates in terms of some core building metrics for it, or
Nice.
core building tactics, and whether people want to use it and go and do their own thing, that's great. Or they can go to a website for this and download the templates for a pretty affordable price. And but the big thing is our first step in this is really just doing YouTube videos and showing what's possible with the
Love it.
system.
Side hustle. I love the little
So we'll
side
get that.
hustle.
I'll send you the name and hopefully we can get it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
we'll put it in the show notes. Excellent, Jeff. That was excellent. You've got a lot of hard earned years of effort into this topic, and you synthesize that down nicely. And hopefully, we inspired and gave some clarity to the remodelers listening to this to
Thank you.
continue to implement and to improve your systems, your processes, and buckle up. It ain't ever going to change, folks. This is a never ending thing.
Right.
So embrace it and enjoy it and learn about it, get your team around it, and keep pushing forward. Jeff, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Kyle.